And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Tomorrow's flying weather. First graphic here for Thursday morning. IFR, eastern north slope out to the Arctic coast, on down into portions of the central Brooks Range there, and then south of the mountains, VFR, and some marginal VFR here over the southern part of the state, south central Alaska, down to the Kodiak Island area, Kenai Peninsula, Bristol Bay, and northern half of the Bering Sea or more. VFR, and then some IFR here for the eastern Aleutians, westward there out toward the Komondorskis, and more IFR along the central north coast of the Panhandle on up into the Wrangell Mountains. And then for the afternoon, even more IFR here forecast for the southeast coast from about Yakutat on down. Marginal VFR for the North Gulf Coast into all of Prince William Sound, possibly into Portage, definitely Whittier areas there down to maybe Resurrection Bay. Some marginal VFR around Cook Inlet and some here over the central and southwest interior. Band of IFR yet up over the North Slope. And a little bit here from the Bering Strait up to Cape Lisburne and Point Hope. Good VFR here, northern Bering Sea, right on down to Unalaska Island. And then IFR spreading eastward or extending from Adak back out to the west. And then that extends eastward Friday morning, at least crossing Atka Island, but the eastern northern Bering Sea staying mostly VFR, some marginal VFR here along the north shore of the Alaska Peninsula. Interior looking good, VFR there, and marginal from the north slope to the Arctic coast. IFR here along the central north coast of the Panhandle again, up in toward Elfin Cove, Glacier Bay, Lynn Canal area, and then pretty good conditions here for the afternoon Friday. Gulf of Alaska, Kodiak Island into Bristol Bay, northward all the way up to the Brooks Range. Good VFR, and marginal VFR for the north slope, and the eastern and northern parts of the Bering Sea, marginal. The western and southern parts, including the central and western Aleutians, still IFR. And for passes, Anaktuvik will go IFR tomorrow, Adigan, marginal VFR, and for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR becoming trending toward VFR, especially in the afternoon. Rainy, also trending toward VFR conditions. Windy, VFR. Isabel looking good, mostly VFR for the day on Thursday. Mentasta, marginal VFR day there. Tanita, VFR. Portage, marginal. And Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing level here, northerly flow at the surface of the loft pulling chilly air down into the eastern Bering Sea into the western interior now. See 4,000 feet all the way down to the Kenai Peninsula. That puts the snowfall level down to about 3,000 feet or so. And then even colder air back here over the northern Bering Sea, 2,000 feet all the way down to Nunivak Island, back up to 12,000 over the western Aleutians and 8,000 feet there right across Dixon Entrance. And got some maybe considerable moderate rime icing moving into the northern Panhandle tomorrow. Otherwise, areas of isolated moderate rime or mixed icing here back toward the Yukon River, Copper River Basin, up over the northeast interior areas, and then a more organized area of moderate rime icing coming into the southwest Bering Sea to about Adak with that next system. And for the jet stream for tomorrow morning, cold upper low here, or chilly upper low at this elevation, 33,000 feet, right over the western Alaska Range. High pressure back to the west between those two features. Strong northerly flow here up to 140 knots over the southern Bering Sea right across the eastern Aleutian areas. Southwest 70 to 80 knots coming in toward the eastern North Gulf Coast. And then for 9,000 feet here, 50-knot winds in a narrow band. They're coming up close to Yakutat. Northerlies 35 up to 45 knots for the eastern Aleutians. Pretty light here under a general trough of low pressure over the interior areas. And for 3,000 feet, good ridging out here over the Bering Sea, keeping those northerly winds going 30 to 35 knots there along the west coast, Nunivak Island down across the Alaska Peninsula. Light variable winds over the interior areas. And then south winds, narrow band here on the north coast of the Panhandle at about 35 knots. And with that, we'll put some moderate turbulence in for the central and north coast of the Panhandle. Nothing significant here over the interior until you get out to the west coast, Seward Peninsula, and down across the Kuskokwim Delta to Cape Newnham, Togiak Bay, some moderate chop there, or moderate turbulence, and also moderate turbulence for the Alaska Peninsula, and then that system out to the west bringing some rougher conditions in towards Shemya and Attu.